Okay, I see Dan's on the call, and Mike. Welcome, guys. We're going to wait a couple more minutes before we get started with the program here. Hopefully we'll get a few more people logging on, because we do have some great information to share with you tonight. All right, we'll give everybody about one more minute. I'm at 4 after the hour, so at 5 after the hour, we'll get started. Okay, it's 5 after the hour. Let's get going so we can get through this deck and send you on your way with hopefully a head full of new information about triathlon training and racing and preparing for the Chicago Triathlon. So first of all, thanks for joining us today. This is the Workday Executive Challenge training webinar, and it's a pleasure to have you here this evening. So your presentation host, my name is Troy Jacobson. I'm the Senior National Director and Head Triathlon Coach for Lifetime Fitness. I've been involved in the sport since the late 1980s and coaching since the early 1990s. I race professionally. I've done Ironman Hawaii a bunch of times, as well as lots of national events throughout the United States and Canada. And I've had the privilege of working with athletes of all levels, including a U.S. Olympian, lots of elite Ironman level athletes, and certainly my favorite thing is to work with folks who are new to triathlon and just getting into the sport and want to enjoy the sport. At Lifetime, I manage our coaching business, so throughout the company we have roughly 60 to 70 triathlon coaches at our clubs nationwide, and my job is to manage their business development and make sure that they're providing a high quality service to all of our athletes and our members. I am also a master coach for Ironman University and was involved in the creation of that Ironman University certification program. So I've been around the sport for a long time. Also with me tonight, and he will be talking a lot about course logistics and other things, is Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy's been in the sport probably as long, if not longer than I have, and has just an incredible pedigree in the sport himself, is an awesome athlete himself, and he's also the president of CEO Challenges and just brings a wealth of information to everything triathlon. So it's certainly a pleasure to have him here today as well. So you have two folks on the call here that have a lot of experience in the sport, and our job tonight is to relay some of that knowledge and experience to you so that you can have a great triathlon experience. So let's talk about the agenda tonight. So we have lots of things we're going to go over, and we're going to try to keep everything brief because we don't have a lot of time, and we want to open it up to some Q&A at the end. So hopefully you can see my screen, and if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to type in something there in the little chat box, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I see we have somebody else who just signed on as well. So welcome. I believe that's Robert. Welcome to our call. So we're going to talk a little bit about the event background, talk about the pre-race training clinics, some really great opportunities for you to engage in, race weekend schedule of events, spectator viewing locations, race packet contents, training plan overview, course tips, and race week tips and Q&A. And again, we're going to really summarize everything because the truth is this could be a 2-day workshop if not even longer than that, to really get this information in greater detail. So we're going to just really go over this quickly and give you some very basic and fundamental information. So the Chicago Triathlon, the Transamerica Chicago Triathlon, that is, has been around for quite a long time. It is the nation's 5th oldest triathlon, as you can see, established in 1983. It's one of the world's largest events. I believe this year it has over 9,000 registrants, which is just incredible. I've done the race a few times myself, including back in the very early 1990s, and it was a huge triathlon then with only about 5,000 people. So nowadays, obviously, with the growth of the sport, that race has grown as well, and it's just a great event overall. And of course, it's part of the Lifetime Tri-Series. We have events throughout the United States, iconic Olympic distance events, and Chicago is certainly one of them, but we have several more. And if you go to lifetimetri.com, you can learn about all of our events around the United States. So the race distances the race includes and you can partake in are, of course, the international distance, the sprint distance, the super sprint. We have a kids try, and then the triple challenge. So something for everyone, which is just fantastic. It's like a big party, a big festival of triathlon, and it's just great. So in our next slide, we're going to talk about the pre-race training clinic. And Ted, why don't I hand that over to you?
Yep. So this is open water swimming is probably the biggest barrier to triathlon. Well, that and the price of bikes, but those two things. Most people get most anxious about open water swimming. So we find the best way to relieve that pressure is to allow people to get into the water at some point and learn from the best of the best on how to handle the open water swim. Troy wasn't available, so we're bringing in 5-time world triathlon champion and actually the Olympic distance world record holder, Simon Lessing. Simon had an incredible career where he led the sport for probably 12 or 13 years, was unbeatable, and I would have to say one of the greatest open water swimmers of all time. So we're real lucky to have Simon. He and I will be flying into Chicago on July 14th, which is a Thursday, 6:30 p.m., which hopefully people, if you have to get out of work a little bit early, hopefully that works. Come on down to the Ohio Street Beach, which is the beach just where you go underneath the parkway, and we'll put on a great clinic for you. Bring your wetsuits. I know that water sometimes it turns over and can be real chilly. I've been in it other times it's been 75 degrees, so you never know what you're going to get. But bring your wetsuits, and we'll have afterwards we'll have a couple drinks and some snacks right there at Ohio Street Beach. Please RSVP back to me. You can see my email address by July the 1st, so that we know how many are coming. Talking about race weekend, now that that clinic's over and you're real comfortable with the water, Friday night, 6 o'clock, we're still deciding on, we're trying to find a great place for the restaurant for us, so stay tuned. We'll send you out information on that, but Workday is hosting a fantastic welcome dinner for us, where you get to meet all the other competitors, the other 29 competitors, we expect 30 in total. You get to meet the Workday executives, and you get to meet the CEO Challenge staff. We're bringing in 4 or 5 staff people there to look at, well, our only goal is to look after you and your guests. So it'll be a great time to meet us Friday, 6 p.m., and that will be where you have the opportunity to pick up your packet. Rather than have to wait in the long lines at the Hilton on Saturday, we'll do a private packet pickup and private race briefing for you, so you can get that hand stamp to prove that you've been to the race briefing, to get your wristband to get you into the race. Saturday is kind of a day off for most people, but if you have kids or if you want to do a super sprint just as a warm-up, the Montrose Avenue Beach area is absolutely fantastic. The water is not over anyone's head. Even you know, 3-foot kids can walk the whole swim if they want to, and it's a real cool thing to get that kids sprint and super sprint there. So if you have children, I highly recommend entering them in that super sprint at Montrose Beach. The expo is at the Hilton with a packet pickup, which if you missed doing that on Friday, you'll have to do that. And then it's optional to check in your bike at the transition area on Saturday afternoon. Most people check it in Sunday. They ride it to the race. They park far away or a mile away, and then ride their bikes in, but you have that option if that's one less thing to worry about. On Saturday, you can check your bike in on Saturday afternoon. Now for the those of you doing the international distance and the international distance relay, you're going to be getting up real early on Sunday morning. The transition area is open from 4 to 5:30. We'll have our staff in there with our special Workday Executive Challenge flags to designate the Workday Executive Challenge bike racks, so you'll all be racking together and in the prime position, I might add. That's the beauty of running this Workday Executive Challenge and also Lifetime Fitness owning the race is we can do whatever we want. So we get the prime position in the transition area. We'll help you set up all your gear, and then at 5:30 walk down as a group to the swim start, because the race kicks off at 6 a.m. with the first wave, which is first responders, challenge athletes, and the triple challenge people. Triple challenge are crazy people that they do the super sprint, the international, and the sprint in the 3 days. We don't have anybody signed up for that, thankfully. Last year we were wave 2 at 6:04. I'm assuming we'll be wave 2 or close to it again. So nice and bright and early. Well, not bright. The sun's just coming up at 6:04. But you get out on the course when it's real nice and clean. And I'm sure Troy can relate to this since he's done this race many times. It gets crowded out there if you start in one of the back waves. If you start at 9 o'clock or something, it is really, really crowded. So we have the advantage of having the nice clean roads. And then once the race is over, we'll celebrate in the VIP area, and we'll do awards and in the VIP area at 10:45, and then the winners get to get their trophies on stage at 11 o'clock. Sprint distance is a little bit different. Transition area is open until 8:15. You can check in pretty well anytime. 8:15 we'll walk to the start. 8:45 we're in the very first wave. So we get a very clean race. The international people are pretty much all gone through, and we're the first wave off. Again, very similar. 10:45 VIP area awards. 11 o'clock the winner on stage. One of the coolest things about the CEO Challenge, and one of the reasons why we get such high ratings every time we run an event, is that we spend as much effort looking after your guests as we do looking after you, the racers. As I said, we'll have a staff of 5, and 4 of us are going to be focused on you, the racers. But then once you're in the water and you're on your way, then we all switch gears and just focus totally on your guests. Really cool viewing area just beside the swim start. It's closed off only for us, only for VIPs, and your guests will get to stand right beside where you go in. So when you're in the water and you look up to your right, there's your guests waving at you, crying, throwing tears, whatever they're going to be doing. So great place for that. And then we'll escort your guests around to the best viewing areas, depending on how much they want to walk. I mean, some people don't really want to walk that much if they have young children especially. But if they're up for walking, we'll take them to the swim exit so they can see, make sure you got out of the water safely. And then we'll hustle them over to the bridge overlooking what we call the secret highway underneath Grant Park. They'll get to see you go out and back on that. And then we'll get them over to the 1 mile mark. This is for the international distance now, the 1 mile mark, so they can see you a mile into the race. And then we'll hustle them over to the VIP finish line so they can see you finish. So I know the biggest complaint we've had over the years with CEOs and other people that have raced triathlons is they say, man, my family has never seen me once. They're always in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But we have that figured out. We know where to be at the best to find you. We know how fast you're riding and running, and we'll have them there to see you. With the sprint distance, same thing. The swim start, over potentially to the swim exit, and then to the VIP finish line is all we have time for because you guys are so fast through that course. And that's it for race weekend.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ted. And we'll take some Q&A towards the end of the call. So if you have any questions about any logistics, please make a mental note. Or again, if you'd like to type those in, please do so. And I just want to say welcome. We have Dan, Diana, Christina, Mike, and Robert on the call. So thanks, everyone, for jumping on. Really appreciate it. So what do you get in your race packet? It's pretty cool to get the race packet. You get all kinds of cool stuff. And also, don't forget about the expo. I know Ted mentioned it. The expo is second to none. I mean, you could walk around there for hours and hours, something you probably shouldn't do because you can actually tire yourself out by doing that. But if you want to learn all the latest and greatest in triathlon technology and some of the new products out there, the expo provides it all. They also have some great discounts on different products and services. So really take your time, enjoy the expo. But what do you get in your race bag? You get your athlete wristband, stickers for your bike and helmet, your timing chip, which of course you need to turn in at the end of the race, your race bib numbers. You get a swim cap with the color of your swim wave, so it's really important to have the right cap. There are many waves, so keep in mind, I believe that there's 30-some waves if I recall. So lots of waves, and most of these waves will have a different color swim cap. Tri-tats and your temporary tattoos. So you'll put those on your arm. You can see in that photo there, you have your cool-looking tri-tats. Safety pins, of course, for your race number. And, of course, any goodies, any sponsorship goodies that are in the bag. And, of course, your race T-shirt, which you'll want to wear all the time after the race, maybe even before the race. So let's talk about the training plan. Now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of getting ready for the event. We're still ways out, which is nice, so you have plenty of time to get yourselves ready. And keep in mind, everybody does triathlon for a different reason. Some people want to be competitive in their age group. Other people just want to finish. And it's just for fitness and fun and recreation. And whatever your reasons are, own it and just get ready. You know, get yourself as ready as you want to be for race day. But we did provide a training program so that you have some basic structure in which to follow. And certainly if anybody's interested in taking that a step further, we do offer private one-on-one coaching where you can actually hire one of our coaches to give you really customized advice and to build a relationship with that coach by phone, by email, and in some cases, if you're near one of our Lifetime Fitness centers, you can actually build rapport with them one-on-one and participate in their group workouts. But let's talk about the training plan a little bit. First of all, I want to talk about intensities. So I do recommend as a coach that athletes wear a heart rate monitor. It's a great way to start learning how their body runs. You know, it's kind of like the tachometer on your car. It monitors your engine, and that's what a heart rate monitor does. It monitors your level of output and your energy consumption by way of measuring your heart rate. So what we like to do is to determine heart rate zones, and then we like to go with these different zones, and each workout is according to a different zone. And by training in different zones, you actually work on different energy systems. And in triathlon, as we'll discuss a little bit, the primary energy system is your aerobic energy system. So we do a lot of work in that zone 1 and zone 2 range where that comfortable conversational pace is. And that's really a nice area to train. That's where your body is utilizing fatty acids as a primary source of fuel. And who doesn't want to burn fat, right? Well, if you train a lot in zone 2, you actually train your body to utilize fatty acid more efficiently as a source of fuel. So there's a great benefit there, and you also do get stronger. Then, of course, zone 3 is your labored breathing pace. This is that intensity where you sort of want to slow down because it sort of hurts, but you don't have to. You know, your breathing rate's up, your heart rate's up, and you're a little bit uncomfortable, but you can sustain it for a long period of time. And then zone 4, well, that's the hard effort. That's where you really start pushing the pace, and that's where you have your 95% to 100%. And you do interval training sometimes at that hard effort, and interval training will boost your fitness very quickly. And we do have a little bit of interval training in the training plan that you have. So here are some training plan overview comments and concepts. First of all, follow your plan 90%. So what I mean by that is if you miss 10% of your workouts, that's okay. That's called life getting in the way. So what you want to do is try to follow your plan 90% of the time. So be diligent as possible with following your program, getting the workouts done, but leave a little wiggle room there. So if you have to miss a workout, it's no big deal. Try to hit 90% of your workouts, though. Focus on your key workouts. Your key workout each day will typically be your quality training session. So if a workout has interval training, in the workout, that's probably your key workout. So in other words, say you have 2 workouts scheduled. You have a run and, say, a swim. If the run has interval work in it, then I would suggest that being your key workout for the day. In some cases, if your workout is a longer aerobic endurance workout that builds endurance, that would be your key workout for the day. So, for example, on weekends, we typically have a longer bike ride. So that is your key workout for that day, even if there's another workout. So if you need to miss a workout, you miss your secondary workout, and always try to get that key workout in. Practice good pre, during, and post-race training nutrition. This is really important because you go into any training session, if you go into any training session with low energy because you're not fueled properly, you're going to have a bad workout, a low-quality workout. And since we don't have a lot of time, since you want to maximize your time, you want to go into each and every workout with high energy levels. So make sure that you're taking in quality foods that will fuel your performance at all times. Schedule transition time for each workout session. This means when you're laying out your week, and say you have 8 to 10 hours a week of training, don't forget, you're going to probably have to add another 20%, or roughly 1 to 2 hours in terms of transition time. So that's preparation, it's getting to where you're going to train, it's all these other factors. So keep that in mind in your workout equation when you're setting up your training schedule. Record daily training results and other metrics. I feel that keeping a training log is really important. There are a lot of tools out there for that. You can use a regular log book where you write your training in, or a lot of people now are using the online training logs, such as Training Peaks, and there's several others on the market. But it's a great way to stay accountable, to monitor your training progress, and even to go back in the future and look at what you did so that you can compare your training in the future and maybe make modifications and tweaks so that you can get stronger. The next point is listen to your body. Training intuitively is really important for all athletes, and especially if you're a beginner. You need to listen to your body. And the biggest mistake triathletes make is they push themselves too hard, because our mentality is the more you do, the better. The harder you go, the better. But that's not always the case. If you don't feel well, if you feel overly tired, if you're just having a really bad day and mentally you're not in it, you need to listen to your body. Something is telling you maybe to back off. So I have something I call the 10-minute rule. I say if you're not feeling well prior to a workout, get into the workout and start it and go for about 10 minutes. If at the end of 10 minutes you're not feeling like you want to continue, you just don't feel like you're getting your body warmed up and your body's just not responding, then quit. Call it a day. Go back to your house, have dinner, whatever it is, just relax. But usually when you go 10 minutes, you can get into the workout, get warmed up, and finish the workout. But always try to give it 10 minutes. But more importantly, always listen to your body. Develop that keen sense of self-awareness. Prepare for your workout in advance. This means basically planning. That's why you have a training plan. So a lot of my athletes who I work with will get their training plan on, say, a Sunday night, and they'll lay out their entire week. They know exactly what they're doing every day of the week. They put it in their calendar so that it makes sense for them, and they follow the plan. Because if you don't have that plan in place, you don't block off your calendar, you probably won't get it done. Plan, set up, and execute, well, we don't even need to say more. You need to execute your plan. As again I mentioned, eat for performance before, during, and after. Warm up before each workout session. Warming up is really important. It gets the body ready. It helps prevent injury. And the best kind of warm-up to do, of course, is dynamic warm-up, dynamic stretching, where you actually do different movement patterns. It could be as simple as jumping jacks, high knees, butt kicks, all kinds of different things like that. But to get the blood flowing and really start getting the body ready for the activity. Follow the prescribed session with discipline. If there's a training session that has some specifics to it, interval training or whatever, or different target heart rate zones, it's there for a purpose. So try to really drill down on that workout and do it as it's meant to be done. Again, use your intuition, and if you're not feeling it, then you can back it off. Or in some cases, you might be feeling great and say, all right, I want to go a little bit harder. I want to do a little bit more. That's okay too. But try to hit the workouts as they're prescribed. And after the workouts, cool down, stretch, and recover. Cooling down could mean just doing a light walk. It could mean spinning your legs out. It can mean doing some static stretching. Anything that you do to lower your heart rate gradually is a good idea, and it's going to help you recover for the next training session. And of course, recovery is a big topic in and of itself. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So there are some training terms and principles that I wanted to just touch on. And again, just to really go over quickly, but I think they're really important for any triathlete, especially people getting into the sport. So the first one is periodization. And that is a concept that you're actually using in the training schedule we sent you. It's a micro cycle of periodization, but it gives you a concept where you build intensity and then you recover. And what that does is it allows the body to adapt, and that's really important when it comes to training. So I suggest athletes do what they call an annual periodized schedule. So in every part of the year, there's a different focus, and you focus on different energy systems, different skills, different technique, different components of your training, so that your body is never gets stagnant and you're always improving. There actually might be times of the year where you actually purposely let your fitness decline a little bit, but by doing so, you can take 2 steps forward and get stronger in the future. So periodization is a broad topic, but it's something that you should be aware of. Specificity of training, really important one. So in other words, if you ride your bike a lot, is that going to help you swim faster? The answer is no. If you ride your bike a lot, you'll probably start riding your bike faster, but it's really not going to impact your swim in a positive way. So you need to train in the sport in which you want to do well in. And to get more granular, you actually need to train the way you want to race. So if you want to go fast, you need to do some fast training. If you just want to go long and you're an endurance racer and you do long course, then you need to do a lot of that longer, slower distance. So specificity is a really important concept when it comes to your training. Intensity, this is where we go hard, right? This is where you start pushing up in zone 4, zone 5. Overload, this is what it's all about, is overloading your energy systems. When you overload and then you adapt, you get stronger. There's a saying that exercise is controlled injury. Think about that. Exercise is controlled injury. You break the muscle down, you overload it, and by doing so, and you feed it properly, you rest it properly, it gets stronger for the future. I touched on aerobic training. That is where your body is most efficient. You know, you're burning fatty acids as a primary source of fuel, and as triathletes, 80 to 90% of our energy contribution is aerobic. So we really need to develop that particular energy system and focus a lot of our training time on doing so. Anaerobic training, on the other hand, is without oxygen. That's where you're going harder, and lactic acid builds up. That's why the muscles burn when you're really going hard or fast, or, for example, lifting heavy weight. That's an anaerobic activity, and that's not sustainable for very long. However, the more fit you are, the more sustainable it is. So the goal in training is to raise your what's known as your anaerobic threshold so that you can go faster for longer without all that lactate building up in the muscle. And when you're more fit, it actually removes faster from the muscle as well. So there's a lot of benefits to getting fit. There's also a lot of benefits to doing anaerobic training in your workouts so that you boost your fitness faster and you work on that energy system. Overtraining is when you do too much, when you push too hard. When you push too hard, your body doesn't adapt, you become overtrained. And overtraining is like becoming sick. It's like getting the flu. That's how you feel. You feel lethargic. You feel tired all the time. You get cranky. You just feel bad, basically. It takes a lot, typically, to overtrain someone, but there is a possibility to be overtrained if you're not allowing for proper rest and recovery. So if you look at your training plan that we sent you, there are days worked in every week where you don't do any exercise. That is purposely there to help you avoid overtraining and to actually recover from your workouts and get stronger. So rest is a good thing. Food is fuel. We talked about that. And then recovery is key. Again, I just want to stress, unless you're a 20-year-old professional athlete, even those folks need to recover. But especially as we get older, over the age of 35, into our 40s, 50s, it's really important that recovery becomes a big part of the training equation, and we incorporate that and really pay attention to our recovery. So let's go over some of the different different aspects of the actual race itself. And I think that picture there is actually of a Chicago Tri swim start. It looks like a choppy year with some haze, so that could be the case. But look at those boats there. It's a great venue. I've always enjoyed that race so much.
So, actually, Troy, that's a picture of the CEO Challenge wave from I think it was last year or the year before, and that's the view that the VIP guests get of the swim start. So you can literally see you're right there.
Right, and Ted, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually walk down the walkway there and sort of stay with your athlete, right?
Yep,
see them
yep,
they,
sure
they
can.
Go down, swim along the wall.
Yep.
Yep, perfect. So, the swim is absolutely the most challenging for most people getting into the sport of triathlon. It can be scary to some people, and it's one that involves a lot of technical development. You can be really fit and really strong, but not a good swimmer. So confidence comes from proper preparation. This means spending time in the pool. It means working on your skill and technique. Skill and technique is first. When I work with a new athlete, I say, don't even worry about getting fast. It is so unimportant right now. Don't worry about swimming fast. Don't worry about intervals. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Let's just work on the biomechanics of your stroke. Let's work on technique, because the better your technique is, the more efficiently you can pull your body through the water, the faster you're going to go. The conditioning piece will come, but let's first work on the technique. So body position is really important. Work on getting long and strong. Think of yourself as a speedboat, not as a barge. You know what a barge looks like? Big square to off, like just snow plows the water and goes slow, whereas a speedboat is very hydrodynamic and goes very fast through the water, has a very low profile through the water. So you want to get really long. The longer you get, the more you reach with each stroke, the more efficient you will be. And I really recommend, if it's allowed, and most likely it will be, that you wear a wetsuit, because wetsuits actually help you with your buoyancy and body position. So it's a real benefit. It also gives you more confidence because you float. So wear your wetsuit out there and practice with your wetsuit, okay? Don't let the race day be the first day you wear your wetsuit. Get out there with Ted and Simon for the clinic and practice with that wetsuit, because I tell you what, even in my experience, having raced for over 20 years, when I put a wetsuit on the first time of the year for the first race, I panic a little bit because it's very constrictive, and it really, it gives you a feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so tight. And then you add the water element, cold water, people around you. It can be a little bit scary. So make sure that you wear that wetsuit before you get in there on race day. Relax and breathe. So this is a key point. Relaxation. Just relax and just focus on your breathing pattern. If you can do that, everything else will be fine. It's when people get anxious and start hyperventilating or really worrying about what's happening that they can find themselves in trouble. Don't do that. Just relax. And if you have to, go over on your back and just float on your back, or do the doggy paddle or breaststroke, whatever you need to do to regain your composure. But relaxing and breathing at a steady pace is going to be key and critical to your success on the swim. And that means you need to get in the water. I mean, it won't just come to you. Like I mentioned before, specificity of training. If you want to be a better cup swimmer and be more comfortable in the water, you got to get in the water 2 to 4 times a week. Absolutely. Make 3 times your goal. And some weeks if you do it 2 times, that's okay. But then other weeks, try to make it 4 times. Become very comfortable in the water. And I really recommend using a coach. A coach will be able to stand on deck, give you advice, look at your technique, and really help you go to that next level, and videotape you as well. I think it's really great for you to see your stroke so you know what the coach is referring to when they give you drills and give you advice. Let's talk about the bike. The bike sets up the run. There's no part of the triathlon that has more of a time commitment than the bike. It accounts for 50% of your race in most distances. So the bike is really key and critical to your overall success in the sport, even to the extent that the more fit and conditioned you are on the bike, the better you'll be able to run off the bike. So, for example, I've seen a lot of really great runners get into the sport of triathlon, but they don't develop their cycling legs very efficiently or effectively, and they get off the bike in triathlon, and they're half the runner that they really are. They only hit half of their potential. But I've seen mediocre runners who have really good cycling fitness get off the bike, and they run at 90% of their potential on the run. So you really need to develop your biking and put the time in. You know, in your workouts that you have, there's one day a week, I believe, if I recall, that we scheduled interval training. I think that's really important for you to do that, as well as your long ride. Try to get on that bike 3 days a week so you can build that cycling fitness. And as you get more and more into triathlon, you get really engaged in the sport and you start going to different distances. Maybe one day you'll do a 70.3 or even an Ironman. You'll be committing more and more time to the bike. It is a safe and effective way to build fitness. It builds your aerobic fitness base very effectively, and it can do it very safely because of the nature of cycling, the low-impact nature of cycling. But you need to work on your technique. You need to develop a smooth pedaling action with a high cadence. You don't want to mash a big gear. That's actually counterproductive for a triathlete. You know, pushing a really big gear slowly for a time trialist might be an okay thing to do, but you're a triathlete. You're going to run after the bike. If you push a really big gear, you're going to tire your legs out so much you'll never run to your potential. Plus, you'll never develop the kind of supple pedaling style that you want to develop so that you have a lot of efficiency in your cycling. That's why with my athletes, I really have them focus on high cadence work, lots of drill work. You know, I like a cadence of around 85 to 90 RPMs for race day, but in training, I have them work at cadences of 95 to 110 RPMs. So on race day, it's like a piece of cake. You want me to pedal 85 RPMs? No problem. I'm used to pedaling 95 RPMs. So work on that cadence and develop your technique. Develop safe bike riding skills. Know how to corner and ride up near other people. Of course, you're not allowed to draft, which means you can't get behind somebody. I think it's 3 or 4 bike lengths. So you're not allowed to do that because that lets you take advantage of their slipstream and you conserve a lot of energy, upwards of 30%. So you're not allowed to do that in triathlon. But in training, you still need to learn to ride with other people. Cornering is a really important skill set too. The better you are at cornering, the faster you can go into a corner and get out of a corner, the faster you're going to race overall. So learn these subtle techniques. And again, working with a coach is a great idea to do this. And incorporate various intensities of training. We talked about your aerobic endurance base. Do the aerobic rides where your heart rate's just nice and steady and your spinning is up there around 95 RPMs and you're burning fat. Do a lot of that. But then also do your intervals. You know, crank out some hard 1 minute. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. 1 minute. 95% effort, and then recover for a minute. Do a few of those. Do 5. And then every week you can add another one. And you'll see your fitness just start to build and build and build. And there's so many different interval programs out there that we can suggest to you if you're interested. So you can let us know. But incorporate intervals into your training program. Let's talk about the run. So this is where it all comes together. And the way you pace yourself on the bike, the way you manage your nutrition, will all dictate how well you run off the bike. If you went too hard on the bike, oh boy, you're going to have a tough time in that run later on in the run. If you didn't maximize your nutrition and hydrate and take in the carbs and your gels and whatever other products, you will have low energy. You're going to have a hard time running and finishing strong. So again, the bike sets up the run, and the run is where you actually make or break your race. Okay? So you want to focus on your good form. You want to run with efficiency. You don't want to overstride. You want to be nice and relaxed in your upper body. You want to have a nice forefoot or flat foot strike. You know, you just want to be nice and relaxed. High, stand tall, run tall, and just really be relaxed with your stride. And that way you'll be most efficient. With your run training, you want to build your volume and intensity slowly because, you know what, running is where most people get hurt the most, the fastest. So people who ramp their running volume up too quickly, and Ted can probably attest to this, I'm sure he may have done it in all his years of running, I know I have. If you ramp up your run training too quickly or you ramp up your intensity too quickly, you're bound to get hurt. So do it very gradually and allow your body to adapt. Build your aerobic base and then incorporate some interval work. And interval work on the run can be as simple as what I like to call striders. 20 to 30-second striders where you gradually build your speed to maybe 90-95% of your max speed, and then you jog easy for about 30 seconds to a minute. And you do a number of those, and that really builds your running efficiency and form. Practice running off the bike. This means doing brick workouts. And in your training plan, we incorporated brick workouts into your routine where you'll get on the bike, you'll do your workout on the bike, and then you'll have your run stuff ready, and you'll transition immediately to the run. And you'll get used to that transition because when you first do it, it feels really awkward. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Pay attention to your gauges. That means monitor yourself in your training and in your racing. That means always do a self-inventory. How are you feeling? How am I feeling? How's my pace? Am I hydrating well? Always taking into account how you're feeling and being aware and intuitive during the run. And finally here I said, incorporate runs on soft surfaces and or the treadmill. I love the treadmill. I mean, I live in Tucson, Arizona, where it's going to be 120 degrees this weekend, so I'll be on the treadmill this weekend. But I love it for training no matter where you are, at least a couple days a week, because it's so forgiving, and you can really dial in your pace. You can add a little bit of an incline. I know it's boring to some, but adding that treadmill also helps you reduce your chance of injury. So running maybe once or twice on the treadmill, then once or twice on the roads is a great combination. And if you live somewhere where there's trails, add those in as well. Okay, race week tips. Let's talk about some of the basics. It's normal to feel anxious. As this race approaches, you're going to have some anxiety, and why not? That's what racing does to everyone. When you don't have any anxiety, you're probably not really focused on the race, to be honest. So there's probably a little bit of anxiety, and that's okay. Also called butterflies. I still get them, and I've done so many of these in my career, but I still get the butterflies. Learn the basics. We talked about that. Create your checklist. Create your checklist with regard to your training so you can check off your boxes. Swim done, bike done, run done. But also other checklists with regard to equipment and other needs. Develop a race day strategy for race day. So, have an idea of how you're going to approach the swim. How are you going to take off? Are you going to go out relaxed when the gun goes off? Are you going to focus on getting nice and long with each stroke? How are you going to get on the bike? You're going to start off in your small front chain ring, so it's really easy to get out of transition, and then shift to your big ring, and then start getting into your rhythm. So all these questions you need to think about ahead of time, just so you have an answer for it when it's time to go. And then you want to visualize. You want to visualize what you're going to do out there on race day. And I usually recommend you start that process a couple weeks before the race. Develop a sound nutrition plan. That includes how much fluid are you going to drink out there on race day? How many gels are you going to take on the bike, on the run? Know these questions, know answers to these questions so that there's no guesswork on race day. Get your gear organized. Start that the week before, especially with the bike. There's so many things that can go wrong with the bike, all the moving parts. So make sure you take it to your bike shop the week, maybe 2 weeks before, just so everything's checked out, tightened up, everything's ready to go. Get your gear organized. Stay focused and alert. Execute your plan while being flexible and willing to modify it if necessary. That's something that's really important for every triathlete, especially on race day, because there's always going to be some level of adversity. Something will probably go wrong, or at least not perfectly correct, and you need to be prepared. What do you do? What's your plan B if something goes wrong? What's your plan B if your goggles get knocked off in the swim? What's your plan B if a water bottle pops out when you go over a bump and you don't have that water bottle? What are you going to do? Just be prepared. So we do have an equipment checklist here. So here are some things that you should, and there's lots of these online. This one is not really that complete. There's other checklists which are, just so detailed, tells you what to bring, and you can Google those and figure those out. But have a checklist so you don't forget things. I remember a few years ago, I did Ironman Hawaii, and it was my 8th time doing the race, and I thought I had everything ready, and I get to the race start, and I didn't have my water bottles with me. They were still in the refrigerator, and I just couldn't believe it. So I had to ask my wife to go all the way back to our condo to get and here I am making a rookie mistake, having done the race so many times. But it happens. I didn't have my checklist, so I'm guilty. So, but don't want you to be guilty of the same thing. So make sure that you have your checklist. And so in the swim, you have your swimsuit, your goggles, your wetsuit, the bike, obviously your helmets, your shoes, your bike or your tri-shorts. So tri-shorts and a tri-kit basically is a uniform that you can wear for the swim, bike, and run. You don't have to change clothes. So really consider a tri-kit. Ted, do you provide, is there a tri-kit for the team?
Sure is, yeah. We volet, top of the line, zip tri-top, tri-shorts, and jacket. Yeah, so they're
Awesome.
looked after there.
Perfect. So you guys don't have to worry about that, which is great. So that's a really nice perk, nice benefit there. And the volet stuff is fantastic. We use it for the Lifetime Tri-Team kits, and everybody just loves it. So that's great news. But wear your tri-kit. So the singlet will have a pocket. You can put your gels and your goos. The shorts have a little chamois so that you can swim comfortably, and then you can bike comfortably and even run comfortably. So great. That saves so much time. Have your flat repair kit. Know how to repair your tire. You just want to take it on the bike because you don't want to be dependent on neutral support out there. You can be, but try to do it on your own if you can. And of course, wear your sunglasses so you don't get bugs in your eyes. And just make sure that your eyes are safe while you're riding your bike out there. On the run, you have your race belt. Put your number. Running shoes with quick laces. Some people will race in running flats for their race, but quick laces are great because you just slip your shoes on, and there's other ways of fastening the shoes these days. But use a pair of shoes that you can really feel fast in. Not your clunky training shoes. Wear some nice fast running shoes. And then your hat or your visor. Make sure you shield yourself from that sun. I actually like the hat because if it's really hot and if they have ice out there, you can actually put ice in your hat and then put it on your head, and it helps cool you down. Then for the transition, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, you need your towel, your mat, extra water bottle, sunscreen, chafe cream like a Body Glide, and that's a good point I want to make for your wetsuit. Before putting on your wetsuit, make sure you put on the Body Glide on your neck, around your armpits, any place where there's any friction, because if you don't, you'll have a lot of like a second-degree burn almost. So make sure that you're using your Body Glide. And then, of course, clothing and so forth. So there's a transition list. The key point here is to have a list where you can check your boxes. Let's talk about transition, and that's actually a photo of the actual transition area. You can see how big it is. It's fantastic. All the bikes there. It's just amazing how big it is. So it is the fourth leg of triathlon. And you know what? The high VO2 max doesn't matter. You don't need to have a high VO2 max and a huge anaerobic threshold in order to be good at changing your clothes. You just don't. It just takes practice. So practice your pattern. How are you going to set up your transition area? The experienced athletes do it the same way every time, and they can do it with their eyes closed. So just know your pattern. So you run in off the swim, go to your bike, boom, 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 on the bike, helmet strapped, run your bike out, take off on the bike in, dismount your bike, run back to your transition area, helmet off, sunglasses on, running shoes on, boom, 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 out on the run. I mean, it does not have to take a lot of time, but you need to practice. Keep it simple because less is more. So the less you need to worry about in transition, the faster you're going to go. If you watch the pros, and you can Google pro transitions and see some of their transitions, they don't do anything but basically the very basics and the fundamentals. They just get on their bike and go. It's amazing. And they do their transitions in under 20 seconds. It's just amazing. So look online and figure out different strategies for doing transition. Fancy can be foolish. Don't try any flying mounts on the bike. I've seen people miss the bike, and that's not comfortable for anyone. So just hop on the bike carefully, smoothly, and you'll be a lot better off. Comfort is okay, but it's slower. So in other words, in most cases, I do recommend be comfortable. Put on socks. You'll see the elites, they won't even put socks on, and they'll deal with the blisters after. But be comfortable out there, especially if you're just looking to finish. Know the flow. That means prior to the race, know the flow of the transition area. Walk the transition. Know where your bike is in relation to the entry for the swim or after the swim. Know where your bike is when you come in off the bike for the run. because you don't want to be running around transition area frantically trying to find your spot. Believe me, I've done that before, and it's such a waste of time. You'll be so frustrated because everything looks the same on race day. So you have to know the flow of the transition area. Snap that helmet strap before you get on the bike, because that's an automatic DQ, disqualification. Make sure that helmet strap is snapped. And of course, you're really going to be crammed in there, so be courteous to your neighbor. Really important. So let's talk about a few tips going into the race. Focus on rest. As you get closer to the race, rest is more important than the training. It's called tapering. Training your race kit. Get used to what that feels like. So whenever you get your brand new Volet race kit, make sure you spend some time training in it. Swim in your wetsuit, we already mentioned that. Running your run shoes in your race shoes, we already mentioned that. Do a little bit of race pace work. These are called openers. Do something to keep you sharp. Sharpen a little bit. You don't have to train a lot race week, and that's not the point, because you already have the fitness. You know, the fitness, the water is under the bridge in terms of fitness development. You're not going to get more fit the week before the race, but you can stay sharp. You can keep your body ready for the race. So you do a little bit of work here and there, race pace, but your overall volume is greatly reduced. Eat for performance, don't overeat. Hydrate often. It could be really hot and humid, so make sure you're just hydrating, not overly. I'm not suggesting that you drink so much that you're going to be going to the bathroom every hour. That's not a good idea either, because if you pee clear excessively, you're actually flushing out your electrolytes. So you don't want to overhydrate. You want to hydrate enough so that you just feel like, okay, I've had enough fluids, I'm not underhydrated or dehydrated. Go over your race day strategies, as we mentioned. Employ visualization techniques. Think about your strategy and how you're going to incorporate them. Think about every aspect of the race. Sit in a quiet room, meditate, think about the swim, think about your stroke, think about getting long and staying relaxed and breathing. Think about the bike. Think about getting out there on the bike and letting your heart rate gradually go up to where you want it to be for race day. Think about your pedal stroke and your cadence. Think about how you'll feel out there on race day. Think about pushing yourself a little bit, and on the run, the same thing. Think about all these different things. And then finally, think about finishing and how you're going to feel at the finish line. Think about how good you're going to feel if you push yourself to your expectation out there on the course. Visualization is huge, so make sure you incorporate that. And then finally, relax. So you're getting close to race day, 48 hours away. At this point, you're getting enough sleep. Hopefully you're getting 7 hours a night. Light training, you're doing a little bit of work, not a lot. Certainly you're not making yourself tired, but a little bit of exercise is okay. No TV taper. That means you don't just want to lay around and do nothing. You want to do a little bit of work. Keep your body sharp, as I mentioned. Dial in your equipment. Stay off your feet as much as possible. So go to the expo, but when you're done the expo, get back to the hotel room and lay down and watch TV. Okay, that's before the race. Performance diet. Visualize your race. Have a good dinner 2 nights before. Okay, have a little bit more carbohydrate in your dinner, in your diet 2 nights before. Don't carbo load the night before the race. We don't really carbo load anyway anymore, but don't eat excessively the day before the race. Why? Because of food transit time. You know, you want to make sure that you're on a schedule where you're going to the bathroom every morning so you don't have any issues out there on race day. Sleep well 48 hours before the race. Research has shown that if you get a good night's sleep leading up to the race, and especially 2 nights before the race, you'll be absolutely fine on race day, even if you can't sleep the night before the race due to anxiety. So make sure that you get really good sleep 48 hours before the race. And then, of course, relax. 24 hours before the race, you go through your normal morning routine. Again, maybe a little bit of light training early in the morning or before noon. Stay off your feet. Eat light all day. Get your gear prepared. Visualize your race again. Keep your mind nice and still. Avoid the paparazzi. You know, if the photographers are after you for interviews, tell them they'll have to wait or they have to talk to your agent. Relax and sleep if you can. If you can't, no big deal because you've been relaxing well all week. Race morning. Get up early, 3 hours before the start. Again, your routine. What are you going to have for breakfast? Go to the bathroom. Get all that stuff done. If you're a coffee drinker, have some coffee. If you're not a coffee drinker, don't start drinking coffee on race morning. Get to the transition area early And you have to anyway. This race makes you get there early, which I think is a really smart thing. Because if something goes wrong, and believe me, I've had flat tires in the transition area race morning that I've had to deal with, and I'm always so glad I get there early to deal with it. Again, know the flow of the transition, walk it, and make your mental notes. Warm up a little bit. You know, it depends. I don't believe you can get in and swim. I don't think you can do that, but you can do a little bit of a warm up, jumping jacks, go for a jog. You know, anything to get the blood flowing race morning before you start is a good idea. I doubt you ever do any training cold, so don't start racing cold. So then you'll get your wave start. I think it was 6:04 or something in that time range, and the gun goes off, and you're going to go. So you're going to start off easy. You know, start off in that comfortable, controlled pace. Stay in that comfort zone until you don't want to, until you want to start pushing yourself. Stick with your race strategy. You know, focus on that nutrition and hydration. If you have to, set your watch to beep every 10 or 15 minutes so that you remind yourself to drink. And conserve your matches. Remember, triathlon is a long day. You know, if you're doing that Olympic distance race, the top pros do it in an hour and 50 minutes. Most people do it in over 2.5 hours. That's a long day of swimming, biking, and running. And if you burn all your matches early on, you're going to really suffer a little bit later on in the race. So you want to conserve your matches. You know, I always say we all have a match book that's a certain size, and the pros have this big match book with all these matches in them. Typical age groupers have a much smaller match book because we don't get to train as much. We don't have the same genetics. So we have to be careful in how we allot our matches and how often we burn our matches. So try to burn your matches at a point where you burn your last one as you sprint to the finish line. Race your race. Don't worry about other people out there. Everyone's out there doing a different race. It's a time trial. And you know what? You're going to be passing so many people. They're going to be passing you. It's just going to, and you never know where anybody is. You never know if they're in their age group, if they're not in your age group. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just race your race. Be in your comfort zone or push yourself a little bit beyond that when you're ready. Smile, enjoy, and have gratitude. Have gratitude for the fact that you're out there, you're able to participate in this sport, your body's allowing this to happen. It's just great, and every time I ever toe the line, I always look up and say, this is just a fantastic opportunity to be here, and I always have so much gratitude, and I hope you do as well. And have fun out there, because that's what it's all about. It's just having fun. Nobody's judging you. It's all about you having fun and just challenging yourself. So what do you do post-race? You start to look forward to your next race. Really, you start to refuel and rehydrate, start taking in your calories immediately, 15 to 30 minutes when you're done the race, so you start refueling. Make sure you're starting to hydrate well. You know, enjoy that moment, celebrate with your teammates, and then after the race, you want to get back into light training for a few days. Maybe take a day off after, but then I suggest start some light training, and then you can resume normal training after about 5 or 7 days after a hard race. And then again, focus on your next race, whatever that might be. Okay, we got through the deck, and it is 6:01, and we're going to open it up for Q&A now. And I see a few questions here, and I'm going to read these, and then we can open up for some more. And Ted, you might have to help me with these. Okay, so Dan asked the question. Bike shipping, do you suggest a preferred vendor, or do most folks just fly in with oversized baggage? Dan, that's a great question. I will tell you from my point of view, a lot of people do fly in, and they fly with their bikes, which is a little bit of a hassle. And then there are different vendors out there who do accommodate. People also will send their bikes or ship their bikes to a local bike shop. I have a feeling, and I would have to check to confirm this, that on the Chicago Tri website, there's probably information about getting your bike there. Ted, do you have any input?
Yeah, I checked the Chicago website the other day, and I couldn't find. It doesn't look like we have a preferred retail bike shop. So, but I Googled bike shops downtown Chicago, and about 20 names came up. So I would just, pick one of those and ship it to them and have them build it up. Building up a bike is pretty simple. Any mechanic can do it.
Yeah. So Ted, why don't you, if you can, contact everybody and maybe give them a heads up on the best way to get their bikes there, because that is certainly an issue.
Well, actually, the vast majority, I'm looking at the list now, I would say 80% of the people live in Chicago. We got a couple from St. Louis, and then one from Texas. So really it's just 2 or 3 people that will need that information. So I'll follow up with them.
Okay, great. And then Dan, to answer your question, unfortunately, no, we don't have any coaches in Northern California. As far as tri-tats go for the kids, that's another thing. Ted might be able to grab some tri-tats if there's some leftovers, so you can contact him on that point. And as far as a place to stay for the race, Ted, what is the host hotel you're leveraging? Is it the Hilton?
The Hilton. Yeah, we have a special rate at the Hilton, which is right across from Grant Park, literally, I don't know, a quarter mile from the start-finish line. That's where all the staff stays there, and they actually sell out the hotel to athletes. So I would book it now at the Hilton.
Yeah, okay, great. And then you can provide that information to everybody just in case they need it. Okay, great. Very good. Dan,
it's on Michigan Avenue.
Yep. Dan, I hope that answered your questions. How about any other questions? Do we have any others? You feel free to type it into the box there, or if you'd like to open up your phone, you can certainly just ask as well. Or better yet, I will just unmute everybody. And if you're on the phone, some folks are on the web. But if you're on the phone, you can ask over the phone.
Well, this is Dan. Thanks, guys. This is really thorough. Really appreciate it.
Great.
Oh, glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Much. This is Christina Chambers. How are you guys? I just want to send out the training plan. I think it sounds like you guys sent it out a couple weeks ago.
I just sent it to you while Troy was talking. I realized that you signed up today. You and another person actually signed up today, so I sent it to the 2 of you today. So you should have it in your inbox now.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm going to type in my email as well for everyone into the chat box. So if you have any questions about the training plan, feel free to reach out to me, and I will help you in any way I can. So I'm going to send that right now. There you go.
How many people think they'll be able to make the open water swim clinic July 14th? Will most of you be able to attend that?
I think I should. This is Christina.
Great.
This is Dan. I won't be able to make it.
Okay.
This is Ben Erskine. As of now, I should be able to make it.
Awesome.
Great. Any other questions?
Hey, this is Robert. That's a little far to come from Texas to swim.
Yeah, it probably is a bit of a trip, but if you can build some business in Chicago, then you might be able to pull it off. But yeah, I agree. Allen, Texas to Chicago might be a bit of ways to go for an open water swim.
Okay, any other questions that we can answer for you? Certainly you can circle back and we'll help you out if you want to do that offline. All right. Well, fantastic. Well, we have recorded the call, and I'm going to send Ted the file, and he'll be posting that at some point. So if you want to refer back, and again, if you have any questions for me, please send me an email. You can also find us on lifetimeendurance.com. We do have coaches throughout the United States if you're interested in working with one of our coaches. And we're also going to be posting some really neat 1-minute informative videos soon covering the fundamentals of triathlon training and racing. And those will be available through lifetimetry.com. And I'm sure Ted will send that information out at some point. Ted, do you have anything else?
No, it was great. Thanks so much for joining us. And I know it's late in the day, but hopefully you're able to relax a little bit now. So thank you very much.
Great information. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for jumping on. You guys, again, reach out to me if you have any questions, and good luck with your training and racing. Have a good night.
All right, thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Hey.
Bye.